Hi friends, I just wanted to do a little video about my latest test results, and I am just going to go over why the CBC panels, and why should you care? So, uh, according to some functional medicine, there's what's the standard model chronic disease management ranges, and then there's what's functional and optimal health ranges, and of course what we call, or is known as medicine, is a practice. So it's not even a complete science. And what I mean by that is everything is kind of an opinion still. What was the standard of care, 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 100 years ago? It changes. 1,000 years ago, it changes. Other than what remains somewhat consistent is people recommend like fresh air and being in nature, but, within a balanced quantity. So I just wanted to review this CBC panel, and I'm doing it also because it seems like I keep going to doctors, and even when my panel when even their things register that the CBC panel is off, they don't even, they're just like, oh, it's normal. Like their ranges will say, will note, oh, this range is high or low, even for standard medical ranges, and doctors will just say, oh, that's normal, but it's not, because even their lab is saying it's high or low. So I'm just sharing what my experience is in terms of trying to understand the CBC. So I have some ranges that I'm going to go over, and if you have a CBC panel that you're wondering about, you might want to grab it and join me. And it does take a little while to navigate all of the charts and stuff, but we'll see what we can do. So let us start with, just want to make sure I have all the instructions. Okay, so let's look at creatinine. So creatinine, so my latest score is 0.77. And creatinine should be, so I have Canadian values here, but I think mine is kind of, it's just at the low end. So it's like maybe it's subclinically, it's borderline low. So creatinine is found in muscle tissue. Creatinine along with BUN, are two major indicators of kidney function. Increased creatinine indicates poor kidney elimination of waste products, occasionally from too much meat. And for men, it may hint at prostate problems for men who are over 40. Decreased creatinine may indicate difficulty in perspiring, and therefore getting rid of some toxic waste products, and a lack of hydrochloric acid. So I have been taking oxbile, which is not hydrochloric acid, but I have taken some enzymes, I know, which is not hydrochloric acid, but so I kind of was aware that might be an issue. Okay, so let's look at, I want to look at sodium. Just so sodium is listed as Na, and so my sodium, my latest score is 139. So that seems to be okay. And sodium reflects body fluid control, kidney adrenal function, increased levels may occur if there's increased loss of water by use of diuretics like coffee or drugs probably. A decrease can be caused by dehydration due to excessive sweating or diarrhea, vomiting, also by increased blood sugar or underactive adrenal glands. So yeah, I seem to be, seems to be okay. And let's look at potassium. So mine is 4. And it's very important for proper muscle and heart contraction. Increased level occur with dehydration, acidosis, kidney diseases, endocrine imbalances. A decreased potassium may occur with stress and lowered adrenal function, digestive disturbances, and excess intake of diuretics like caffeine, licorice. So that is potassium and chloride. So mine is 107. So conventional medicine would say 107 is fine, but for functional medicine, it's a little high. Chloride levels reflect proper fluid exchange across cell membranes. Increased chloride levels may be seen in dehydration, lack of hydrochloric acid, underactive adrenals, diabetes, and some kidney diseases. Decreased levels may be due to increased sweating, diarrhea, heart failure. So it might be just direct digestion that I need to, and I know I've always known about that. Okay, so let's see if I can, I didn't write down my urea levels, but I'll see if I can pull them up. So I didn't get them in this test, so I'm not going to review that. Anion, why can't I say anion gap? I'm having a hard time with that word. This room I'm in is like super stuffy, and I have this gas water heater in here as well, along with other things. So let me just see, I don't have the notes for, oh wait. I'm just trying to find my anion gap, but I can't seem to find it, so I'm not going to do that one. But my anion gap seemed to be pretty low, so I'm curious. And so the calcium for me was 9, so that seems to be maybe a little low for functional medicine levels. So calcium is a mineral very precisely regulated by the body, and when it's increased, it can indicate endocrine disorders and excess vitamin D. It's decreased when there's malabsorption syndrome by inadequate intake or lack of vitamin D, and can occur in some liver and kidney diseases. So I'm going to look at protein levels. So albumins and globulins make up total protein. If increased, it may indicate dehydration or fasting. So mine is at 7.2. It's kind of just average. So then there's the AG ratio. Oh, so that's that albumin globulin ratio. So mine is at 1, which seems low even for the normal range. Increase suggests blood stasis. If decreased in the face of high liver enzymes, it confirms liver cell damage and that the blood's too thin. It can also indicate low blood sugar. So it's interesting because my glucose was like 70, so I didn't have low blood sugar at the time of that test, and I hadn't even eaten. So maybe it's just thin blood. And then my bilirubin is 0.5, which, well, maybe that's not so bad, because functional medicine says it can be between 0.2 and 1.2. So bilirubin is indicator of liver, spleen, gallbladder function. Increased bilirubin can indicate liver damage, or that you've been fasting for a prolonged while, or it can indicate inflammation of the gallbladder or increase in the breakdown of red blood cells. So it seems like high bilirubin is a problem, and then maybe low bilirubin might be good. So I have been trying to, I've been taking ox bile to try to help my bile duct and help my liver out. I've been taking milk thistle also to help my liver out. And I just started enzymes, and like I'm totally like bloated from just stress of living where there's carbon monoxide poisoning, but I anticipate once I move out, the inflammation will reduce because for all the supplements I've taken, I should be doing better. But anyways, okay, let's look at alkaline phosphatase. So my alkaline phosphatase is 107, and it should be between 70 and 90, according to functional medicine. This enzyme test, alkaline phosphatase, it tests for liver gallbladder diseases and bone disorders. Increased levels indicate poor gallbladder function, which I figure, serious liver diseases, or an overactive thyroid. I mean, I have been diagnosed with both hyperactive thyroid and Hashimoto's low. Decreased levels of alkaline phosphatase may indicate a deficiency of zinc, magnesium, vitamin C, B12, malabsorption, or underactive adrenals. Okay, so it seems like I just need to support my gallbladder and my liver and my thyroid. So we have the AST test. It's almost like, makes me think of other classes where they tell you, read this chapter, this paragraph, this verse. Okay, so the AST test, mine was 16. AST is aspartate transaminase. It's a sensitive indicator of liver, heart, skeletal muscle, kidney, and pancreas. Besides being increased in liver damage, it may also be increased where there's heart and muscular damage. Sometimes an inflammation of the pancreas will cause the level to rise. Decreased levels may be a more severe sign of liver damage, B2, B6 deficiency, or maybe normal in some individuals. So mine seems to be a little average. In the past, my AST has been actually high. So I guess I'm doing better. Fortunately, something's going well with my ox bile and milk thistle and everything. Okay, so the next test we're going to look at is the ALT, and mine was 28. The ALT is the alanine phosphatase, and so it looks like the standard range is 0 to 45, and the reference range for functional is 10 to 26. So my ALT is high, and I think it's been high for a while. Changes in the ALT generally parallels AST levels. This level it'll increase first in most liver conditions. An increase may indicate liver congestion, fatty degeneration of the liver, congestion of the spleen, lymph, and immune system. And that makes sense. So my ALT I mean, I have an old score of 23, so it's increased, and hopefully when I move out of this place, it'll get better. So, so I think those are what some of my more recent scores. I do think I do also want to point out that neutrophils are really important to look at. Neutrophils indicate being affected by bacteria, funguses, and viruses. And in terms of bacteria, funguses, viruses, what's another one? Like plasmids, I guess you could say. But like we assume that everything is like this separate entity, and there is some kind of very cutting edge science that show how a human cell can change into a different bacteria. That same human cell can change into a fungus, a virus, and it's very it's such a paradigm shift that it's not a common thing you hear about. And with alternative medicine or any good medicine, they do talk about your environment. They do talk about cultivating your biology, like you're your own garden. Your territory really matters more than than being exposed to viruses or whatever. If you're healthy and you cultivate good bacteria, you manage your body chemistry, you manage the physics of your body, as in being around electromagnetics or not, like you're going to withstand this bacteria, fungus, virus change. And I think the word is pleomorphism. So it's when, if I understand correctly, it's when the human cell changes, it literally morphs into a different thing entirely. And conventional medicine says, oh, that's you've been exposed, like a virus is replicating inside you. And from what I understand, I think our cells actually change into viruses, funguses, bacteria, whatever, when we are not taking care of our terrain, like the temple that we are. And so if you have high neutrophils, it could be, and high neutrophils could be considered between 40 and 60% according to optimal functional medicine. So I would just do, what you can to reduce stress, reduce maybe that cell danger response. That's going to be, at least in my experience, I definitely find cell danger response, like I'm very sensitive. I don't know if you heard the refrigerator turn on, but when there's like the fridge going and the hot water heater going and then the laptop going and if there's fluorescent lights, it's just really just more than I can bear. So, and I wonder if it's because of a cell danger response. It's an overstimulation, and apparently our bodies, our mitochondria needs that ATP in order for us to be able to stop responding to sounds or sensations, like the annoying sound of the fridge. So when you have low energy, whether it's low mitochondrial ATP or low adrenal function or thyroid dysfunction or Lyme disease, when you have low energy, you're less able to kind of tune out what's just annoying, like annoying little things. So we just have to manage our lifestyle and our food and our mindset best that we can. And I would definitely encourage people to turn to God. I know it's like, how did this get to, how are we talking about God? But for those of us who have been dealing with chronic illness for a long time and doctors that think we just want to hang out with them, with people around us who think it's kind of funny, our little quirks, our cute little quirks. I do think that we like God is the only one that we can really rely upon. So okay, so neutrophils, if they're over 60%, just know that your body is struggling with, maybe we could call it an identity crisis. Like your cells are like, should I be a bacteria, a fungus, a virus, or a human cell? So you just want to like remind your body, your cells, let's be human. We're a human cell, because that's what's going to work. And anyways, when you have high eosinophils, so it's eosinophils, high eosinophils, and high would be over 3%. So conventional medicine would say it's, 7 is good levels, but you want less than 3% for eosinophils, and those can be an indicator. So anything higher than 3% could indicate parasites. And again, I want to say it's not necessarily our bodies being invaded by parasites. It's maybe our cells are having like an identity crisis. Like, should I be a parasite? Should I be a virus? Should I be a bacteria? So you just want to remind your human cells, hey, let's be human cells. And what makes us human? It could be, maybe it's our dehumanized culture that's causing this identity crisis, causing our cells to change into parasites or bacteria or funguses or viruses. So maybe we need to do what is a human thing to do? Like humans interact, humans communicate, humans talk things out, humans have feelings, humans do creative things, humans play, humans dance, humans sing, and humans are in community. We are connected, and we develop trust. And I think what I consider to be a big problem in humanity today are secret societies, elite societies, and of course, just think of the deepest, darkest ones you can. And I think they are the root of actually our biological sickness. So anyways, continuing along. There's what's called basophils. That's basophils. And conventional ranges are 0 to 3%, and functional ranges are 0 to 1%. And those indicate bacteria, virus, and fungus. So I'm going to suggest that perhaps when you have higher basophils, again, it's this identity crisis, because according to, I was like, there's this one scientist, I was listening to Tony Robbins' audiobook, and there was this one scientist he interviewed where they had a human cell, and they showed when that cell was put under certain conditions, I don't know if it was stress, but the cell actually changed from being a human cell to like a virus, to a bacteria, to a fungus. And the cell just changed before the observer's very eyes. There was just no way they could fake that. And so I'm just kind of, and I think it's called pleomorphism, and I am going to just run with it and say that our dehumanizing culture of like social media and the echo chambers, like, I'm just going to talk to vegans, I'm just going to talk to meat eaters, I'm just going to talk to hardcore Christians or hardcore pagans. I think this intolerant culture that our technology has given us the privilege to have has dehumanized us. And it's not just a psychological dehumanization. It's going to affect us biologically, because we are spiritual beings. And so we have to, I'm going to encourage people to remind yourselves to be human and that they belong in a human body. by being more human. So how do you be more human? What's more human to you? Is it to knit? Is it to have a cup of tea with a friend? Is it to chat with a friend on the phone or in person? Or I don't know what. And I would also say it's good for us to be in fellowship with other human beings. So there's also, let me see, there was one test called MSH, which I don't know if it's conventional. So it's called melanocyte stimulating hormones, and it can reduce our MSH. So that's not a standard test. And I would say also, for some reason, it's really hard to get a serum iron test, but conventional ranges are 30 to 170. Actually, that's for MCG/DL. So optimal healthy ranges, functional ranges are 80 to 130 mcg/dl. So that's serum iron. And the last time I got a serum iron test, it was 66. So let's see. I'm just going to see if there's any other that's really, and so a lot of people don't know what thyroid tests to take, and it is pretty confusing. So oftentimes we get that we're allowed just the TSH test, and it's deceptively called thyroid stimulating hormone. But this TSH is actually produced by the pituitary, because we all know the pituitary is the master, or it's understood, it's considered to be the master hormone. So when you get a TSH, it indicates how your pituitary is working. So my TSH tends to be low, and then sometimes it goes high. So normal ranges for TSH for conventional medicine, conventional levels are 0.5 to 5. Then optimal ranges, I believe, are 1.3 to 1.8 for, I think that's for women, and then 1.5 to 2.2 for men, but I'm not sure. But one of those, sure, that was really helpful. But I guess you could say between 1.3 and 2.2. So I would say for TSH, just maybe ideal 1.3 to 2.2. And then there's the free T3, and that should be for optimal functional ranges 3.2 to 3.3. Then the conventional ranges are 2.3 to 4.2. So the free T4, the optimal ranges, the functional ranges are 1.2 to 1.3. And then the conventional ranges are 0.8 to 1.8 ng/dl. And then there's the T3 uptake, which is pretty hard to get, but the functional ranges is 28, 38 ng/dl, and then the conventional medicine ranges is 22 to 39. Then the total T4, the optimal range is 5.4 to 11.5, and the conventional is 6.2. Then there's the free thyroxine index. So conventional, or the optimal, is 1.2 to 4.9, and then the conventional medicine is 4.6 to 10.9. Then there's what's called the thyroxine binding globulin test. And so functional, so this one's kind of hard to figure out because it's UGDL. So you see if you can find a converter online, but it's between 18 and 27 for the functional optimal ranges, and the conventional range is 15 to 30. And there's a TPO antibody. It should be less than 15. That's for both optimal, functional, and conventional ranges. So our glucose, ideally, it should be. It's interesting. Some celebrity health practitioners would say that even 85 is a little high for a functional range of glucose. I mean, some people are trying to have like a 50. They're fasting, and so their glucose is like at 50. It almost seems like some people are trying to be like glucose queens, like, I can get my glucose really low, and they're constantly checking their blood sugar. But this Thyroid Loving Care is the model that I'm using. She put this list together, and so she, according to her list, glucose can be considered optimal, 85, and she says up to 100, but it's my understanding, like, it really shouldn't be 100. It's my understanding it should be actually a little lower than 100. And then conventional ranges say it could be between 65 and 115. Then there's another test called a reverse T3. And there's also another test called the TRH, thyroid releasing hormone. I don't know if that's another way of calling TSH, but yeah, I guess there's a TRH. And I don't have the scores for the reverse T3 or the TRH. And last but not least, there is what's considered or recommended when, it's kind of like, what's going on? Why is my thyroid low? Is doing a thyroid ultrasound to see if there's something in your thyroid. And I actually got ultrasound around my saliva glands because I have a lot of swelling underneath my jaw, and nothing showed up. But I do think it might be for those of us who have had chronic dental problems, chronic sore throat, bad tonsillitis, strep throat, maybe ear infections. If you've had like a lot of just infections around your throat, in your mouth, your gums, your lips, your sinuses, like chronic sinusitis. I personally have had a lot of kind of just constant infections, and I think that there can be congestion and maybe like lingering stealth infections in these areas. Like, yeah, you get, you're able to get out of bed after a really bad sickness, but the fatigue just builds and builds because the infection kind of just lingers and keeps slowing you down. Now, back to that pleomorphism. So I guess I'm wondering, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, is perhaps if we kind of have more humanizing experiences, if that might help us actually recover from these low-grade infections. So I think that's definitely some food for thought, and maybe it's what everybody is trying to say in all the health webinars and stuff, but it's definitely worth consideration. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you got something out of reviewing this little snippet of the CBC panel, because yeah, there's a lot there. And I did another video that was a little bit more thorough about the CBC panel, so just look it up on YouTube, and if you just can't get enough, there's more there. So thank you, and God bless.